There's been a lot going on with the Epstein probe in Congress and what Democrats say are evasions by the Trump DOJ. Democrats say the Attorney General may be trying to evade a lawful subpoena forcing her to testify on this because she's been dodging. The House Oversight Chairman Comer appears to be backing Bondi, although he was a part of the committee pursuing the subpoena, but now we're talking about what it means to really comply. He does say yesterday's briefing would not replace, of course, the public process of testifying under oath. There's also testimony coming in from Epstein's longtime lawyer who told Congress he just didn't know about Epstein's wrongdoing. Now, people are entitled to a lawyer and a criminal defense lawyer, but there are larger questions here. There are documents suggesting the facilitation of payments to women, as well as directing witnesses to avoid law enforcement. And so, while no one should be denied a lawyer, even if you face the most heinous allegations in the world under U.S. constitutional law, that does not mean that lawyers can just do anything. And so there are still questions, we've probed some of them, about the people around Epstein and whether they crossed the line into joining in his crimes. Congress is going through the unredacted files. Congressman Goldman yesterday said that one unredacted version of an email, which was heavily blacked out, raises questions, that it contradicts some of Trump's defenses about why he ever broke ties with Epstein.
This document here was redacted to the public, it was unredacted to Congress, and it completely disputes everything that Donald Trump has said about Jeffrey Epstein, about what he knew about the allegations, about his disgusting behavior. If the Attorney General is covering up this information that she then reveals to Congress, what else is she covering up about Donald Trump's involvement?
This is active. The pressure and the evidence is pouring out as we speak. That was, of course, just yesterday, middle of this week. The Daily Beast reports about that same email that it would suggest Epstein maybe was never even asked to leave Trump's club and that Trump may have been on Epstein's plane and at his home. Now, to be clear, this is an email out of the larger tranche of files. MS now hasn't confirmed the underlying validity of those documents. Trump hasn't been accused of criminal wrongdoing related to those documents. But even if they simply show that Trump has been lying for years about why he broke up his friendship with Epstein, that is a matter of major public interest. Now, Congress is doing some of this work, however delayed. Today, the Epstein lawyer, Darren Indyke, was being grilled. He's one of the two key lawyers for Epstein. Now, as I mentioned, they say they were just doing their jobs. Other people question whether they took a role as lawyer and turned it into fixer or worse, or ever knowledgeably, knowingly got involved in the criminal scheme. And facilitating payments that you know are for breaking the law is different than, for example, providing someone legal defense. Now, take reporting about one of them, Richard Kahn. He was a longtime accountant. Now, Congress grilled him as well. He was previously questioned by the FBI about the contents of this safe. Take a good look, because the BBC has reported, based again on a lot of the new information we're getting, that when the FBI originally raided Epstein's New York mansion back in 2019, the very day he was arrested, agents forced open the safe you just saw, and they found valuables like diamonds and cash, but they also found binders of CDs and hard drives. Now, stay with me here, because it gets interesting. There was an issue allegedly with the warrant, and so they didn't leave with all the items. Then they returned with a new warrant. The BBC notes that then the safe had been emptied while they were gone. The FBI documents, including the newly released Epstein files, give more color to this. Now, Kahn then told the mansion staff, pack up 2 suitcases with the contents of that safe that he was going to take to his home, according to the FBI. That could allegedly include things like CDs and hard drives, which makes you wonder, what did this sex trafficker want with CDs in his safe? After the FBI spoke to Kahn's then lawyer, he agreed to hand over those suitcases, allegedly untouched. He didn't want agents coming to his house, though, and declined to say who told him to remove the items. This is when your accountants need accountants and your lawyers need lawyers. Kahn's lawyer, telling the BBC his client did cooperate with the FBI, and that is BBC's reporting. We haven't independently gotten additional information, but these are all the questions that, with the new files, really make you wonder why the DOJ seemed to operate this way. Why was evidence allowed to be removed from the safe? Did they confirm they got all the right CDs? Why didn't they pursue these leads more? Part of this story, of course, seems to continue to revolve around the politics and the pressure and the blame game. But another big part of it is still about the victims and the evidence and how long it took to get any kind of justice and why, even when you had an FBI warrant, you could go in, take stuff out of that safe, and then return it on your good word and promise a little later on.
Will you commit to complying with that subpoena and appearing for a closed-door deposition?
I made it crystal clear I will follow the law.
But does that mean you will? Does that mean you appear?
We sat there saying, anything you want to ask us, anything you want to ask us. And they screamed, C-SPAN wasn't there, one of them, and then they stormed out of the meetings.
That's the Attorney General's take on this clash over whether she will follow the subpoena to testify under oath in public. She says C-SPAN, like it's a dirty word, it's actually part of how congressional hearings are broadcast for every agency. We're joined now by attorney Nancy Erica Smith. She has done civil rights work and represented numerous victims of workplace harassment and sexual assault. Welcome back.
Thank you.
Let's start with what sounds like a very unusual situation with Epstein's former lawyer and accountant. Mm-hmm. Congress is finally taking this testimony. I walked through some of the odd scenarios, including that safe. We can put the photo back up. Your view of all that?
Well, the FBI has never been great on sexism. I mean, the FBI has been sued for sexism and misogyny many, many times. So I think that the FBI, in this case, certainly decided to protect the powerful and the connected, and women and young girls just didn't matter, because it's outrageous that they left the safe and somebody was able to take stuff out of it, bring it to his home, and then they didn't show up to the home with a warrant. For the whole house. I mean, they wouldn't. What do you mean he wouldn't let the FBI in the house? It's all absurd.
And when you're dealing with someone like Epstein and you find out that he has CDs and hard drives, and you know that he has a surveillance system, and you know now from the files that were released that he would talk to people about, let me get the records of this and the email of that and prove where people were. What other questions does that raise in a competent probe of what's on the CDs?
Yeah, in a competent probe, well, many of the young victims have said that he videoed them. So and there's certainly some evidence in the files that he was blackmailing people, that he would say things like, well, I would never tell your secrets. Well, that's a way of saying maybe I'll tell your secrets. So the CDs, they may have settlement agreements. They may have legal documents. They may have information about the numerous shell corporations. It says that the investigation was never serious from the time that it was dismantled and he got a sweetheart deal in Florida right up until the time he died.
And so everyone's entitled to a lawyer. And, when people hear us say that, I mean that. There's some people in this country who don't care about the constitutional rule of law. In this country under the Constitution.
Right.
But you don't get a fixer or a co-conspirator or a mob lawyer who's a criminal. There is a difference there. And so I don't want to be misheard as impugning anyone's right to counsel. But Mr. Indike says to Congress, now that these questions late are being asked, he says to explain all this money stuff. Mr. Epstein, quote, had difficulty accessing credit cards from banks. He required cash to pay for expenses like maintenance, repairs, and daily household needs, meals, gifts, gratuities, and fuel for his private aircraft. Is this a valid and competent defense for a sophisticated attorney? Or did he know, or should he have known, that the amount of cash in shell corporations and other activities suggested future misuse of funds for sex trafficking?
Yeah, well, I think it's highly unlikely that he didn't know. It's highly unlikely. I don't have the facts. But we do know that Khan, Epstein's accountant, testified that the Epstein estate settled with Jane Doe number 4, a very important Jane Doe. Jane Doe number 4's files were hidden until Trump bombed Iran and changed the subject. Jane Doe's number 4 files were only found missing because of the Maxwell discovery. And people noticed that Bates stamps, numbers that lawyers use to identify documents, were missing. So we get, finally, right after bombing Iran, we get the Jane Doe number 4 files. Now, lying to the FBI is a crime. Martha Stewart went to jail for it. All people interviewed by the FBI are told that. Jane Doe number 4 alleged to the FBI that Epstein abused her when she was 13 and that Trump abused her when she was 15. Khan, Epstein's accountant, testified that the Epstein estate settled with Jane Doe number 4 for both Epstein and Trump. His lawyer tried to walk that back. Indike refused to confirm or deny that. Now, how do we get to the bottom of that? Congress passes a law invalidating all NDAs from the Trump or the Trump Organization, from Epstein, any of his entities, from the estate, or based on any activities at the Epstein properties. Let's have the truth. We want the truth, no NDAs.